Alrighty, y'all. Welcome back. So, day number 37. It's our compound chest day with our accessory work that comes along with it. So, like normal, got the pre-workout down. We're going to go ahead and get into our bench press. Today, our top set is we're shooting for 265 by 3. Moving up another 5 pounds from last week's 260. So, we'll see if we can go ahead and get her done. So as I go through these warm-up sets, I try to treat every one of these sets as if they're still going to be like a max effort set for the way I set up to it, the way I unrack it. That way I'm just building consistency in. So that way when I get under those big heavier weights, I'm not thinking about making my technique changes. It's already secondhand and my body just does it. Alright, so the 225 felt pretty good. A little awkward on that first rep for some reason, but nothing felt out of whack, tight, things like that. Just for some reason, felt a little weird in the left side. But second 2 reps went just fine. So we're going to go ahead and shoot for 265. Nope. I ended up bumping the dumbbell kind of weird, and it jacked up that rep. Oh, that sucks. Well, we got for 2, so next week we'll go ahead and shoot for 3. We'll be staying at 265. So, using that failure as something to talk about here, it's important to use your safety catches, safety straps, safety blocks, whatever you've got when it comes to setting up for these big lifts where you have a chance of crushing yourself with the weight. Now granted, it being 265, I could just dump that weight off to the side. Probably just, it's going to feel like shit on my ribs. My chest doing that. And I'm going to struggle because the catches without the dumbbells are like an inch too short. So I end up crushing myself with the weight before it kind of like stops. But it would stop the weight from like crushing my throat, but it will crush my chest still. So I kind of have to like roll it up to my neck, and then I can slide out from the bench. So I've just been using those 10-pound dumbbells to make up that distance. And then it's only like a 1/4 inch shorter than my chest, which is fine. That's just me breathing out, and then my chest is out from underneath it. Ugh. Ugh. But the problem with the dumbbells is obviously, the handle's where I'm trying to set the bar at. It's kind of a small little gap. And since my bench kind of isn't always in the same place, and I'm not per se set up in the same place on the bench every time, because it's not locked in, it moves. I don't know exactly where to set those dumbbells every time. So occasionally I run into this situation where like one side's where it needs to be, and the other side will hit the rubber section of the dumbbell, which will make the bar go all crooked or kind of bump it forward or backwards. And it's ran into me like failing lifts multiple times. So I'm at the point now, like I should have already done it. I just need to make myself like a wood block that's a spacer that can fill that height differential and just kind of scoops over the top of the arm here, so I could just drop them on into place, bench, and then throw them over here in the corner and not deal with them being in the way or anything. So I think that's something I'm going to end up making maybe later today or tomorrow or something. At least getting my dimensions for what needs to be there. Because you need the catches. You don't want to injure yourself. But you also don't want to set yourself up to where you're interfering with your lifts. And I've had that happen benching heavier, 300, 305, to where I've clipped the edge of that thing and it kind of torques on the shoulder. Luckily I haven't hurt myself, but it definitely, not like strained as in like tore it or anything, but it definitely pissed it off, and it was super sore for like 2 weeks. So we want to make sure we're not setting ourselves up to fail either. Ugh. But unfortunately, that's the point to where we're at now. So, but like you people who squat with no safeties and bench with no safeties, what are y'all doing? Knock that shit off. It only takes one time for something to happen for you to get possibly injured versus severely injured. Because if you tear a pec and there ain't nothing there and you're up here and you've got 275 plus pounds falling a foot, 2 feet onto your chest, you're going to shatter a bunch of ribs along with it. So that's a whole lot worse than just tearing a pec that they got to sew back together. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and move into our shoulders part of today, which is side raises, rear cable flies. So first we're going to start off 10 pounds on the stack, 10-pound dumbbells, hit our side raises, and then our rear cable flies. Today we're going to do the flies with them a little bit down, so that way I'm pulling slightly upwards. I get a little more rear delta activation out of it and a little more focus. So I like moving them up and down a little bit, just kind of hit those rear delts slightly different each time. But let's go ahead and get these things started. I also finished up those cable presses, got my full 5 sets in. But, so now that we're onto this, and we've talked about our safety stuff, let's talk about, having a day where you kind of fail, where your targeted progress should be. One day where you fail and you don't reach what you're supposed to do is nothing in the long scheme of things. You should occasionally be failing and not always being able to move up, because that means that you're pushing yourself to where your limits actually are. Oh. And sometimes that's just going to come from, maybe you're not hydrated enough, you didn't eat enough, you didn't sleep enough, you didn't recover enough, whatever, right? Sometimes it's going to come from you just haven't been pushing it hard enough, and now that you're trying to make that next jump, you failed it. But that failure means that you just stimulated the muscle past where it has been because you weren't able to actually push it up, right? So, in reality, that failure is progress. In the perfect world, at the very end of that third rep, if I was able to get it up, I would be failing just as I finished the rep and racking. There'd be nothing left, right? So then, that means I completely stimulated the muscle beyond what it's used to while still making progress. And if you're able to do that every single time, you'd be a monster. You'd be very, very select few of people, especially if you're natural. So, which is our case. But if you're never hitting failure, that means you're just working where it's comfortable, and you're either taking too long in between your stages of moving up, or you're never moving up. It's one of those two. Like, you're just hanging out where you are and you're just in the gym willy-nilly. Or you're planning out your progress steps too far apart, so you're making progress slower than you could be. Now, not every training session should you be, per se, 1 rep max failing. Ugh. But, if you're failing on your 12th, 15th rep, that's awesome. You're working to failure every time and pushing it. Now, occasionally, you do got to be failing those heavy, low rep ranges for compound lift stuff. Accessory work, you should never be failing on rep 3 or something. That's just how you injure yourself. You tear up your joints, rip muscles, tear ligaments. Bad news bears, right? But those big compound lifts, you know, occasionally you gotta fail a squat, you gotta fail a deadlift, you gotta fail a bench press, an overhead press. Because one, you're finding your limits. Ugh. And let's be honest, the average gym goer is probably stronger than they think they are. But they're never pushing those limits to find out how strong they are and where they should actually be training at. Now, if you've already reached a physique and your strength goals and all that stuff, that's cool. You ain't got to push it no more. But, let's be honest, that's a very few select amount of people in the gym. A lot of people, including myself, have a long way to go. Oh. Oh. Alright, I'm going to knock out these last two sets, and then we're going to move into our last two movements. We're going to get into triceps and dips. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and move into tricep press downs. So not quite an extension out here, but here is where we're looking. Get a real heavy load on them. Cable's going to be basically right up, like real close, right up against your face. And we're just going to switch which side back and forth as we go here to make sure we're not pressing with one side more than the other. So that first set was 50 pounds. Now we're going to go ahead and move to 70 because that felt pretty light there. Man, oh man. I think I might actually switch that to my easy curl bar instead of this, such a wide, this 90-degree triangle here is a little aggressive on the wrists. Alright, switch the bar, jumped it up to 100 pounds here since the 70 still felt pretty light. So, let's see what we can do here now. Ooh. 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 100 might be a little heavy. I can feel it in the elbows. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this down to 80 and bang out the next two sets. Alright, so now to go and finish off chest, tris, and shoulders here, we're going to go ahead and get into dips. Big stretch in the chest, a lot of tricep activation. Gets quite a bit of stretch inside of the shoulders, and the delts get stretched out quite a bit. And for me, when I get real deep into these things and I go to drive out, I get a lot of front delt. And down here, when I lock out, I get some rear delt just kind of pulling my shoulder down and in as I lock out. So it works for a lot of shoulder stability and just overall mobility and strength. So I enjoy doing these. And it's a killer on the chest and the triceps. Woo! They're definitely, as for like a compound style mobility movement and stability, I don't think there's anything upper body wise other than maybe standing overhead press that is effective at recruiting so many muscle groups as doing a dip. So if you're not doing dips, add them in. I think you'll notice a big difference in the way your shoulders feel, the way your bench press feels, and how strong your triceps get pretty quickly. It's quite remarkable. So especially if you're having a problem from your bench press getting from like here up, dips will make a massive difference in it because you're going to put them under a bunch of load and work them through that range of motion. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and do these last 4 sets, get on out of here, get on my walk, get some dinner eating. So make sure you guys are out there working towards your goals, getting your stuff done. Most of all, just don't be a lazy fuck.